I'm their good friend Klitz. We're standing at the confluence of the Mediterranean and Atlantic, and tell you about the conquest of the Visigothic kingdom by the Muslims. So the story goes that Tariq ibn Ziyad was appointed as the governor of Tangier after its conquest. And, of course, I think he was waiting for an opportunity to strike across the Straits of Gibraltar, as one would. An excellent opportunity, of course, presented itself. Julian, Count of Ceuta, who was ruling one of the last Visigothic strongholds in North Africa, had sent his daughter, her name was Florinda, to be educated in the court of the Visigothic king. But the Visigothic king took some liberties. I hate that I have to euphemize these terms, but you know what it is. Of course, this incensed Count Julian aplenty, and seizing the opportunity and justification, Tariq ibn Ziyad sent his troops across the straits, and the rest is Moorish history. The impact, of course, of Arabic/Amazigh invasion on Iberia cannot be, overstated to a certain extent. I had once kind of had the impression at one point that this history is something very overrated. That I think Andalusia gets a better reputation than it might ought to. That caliphs of like Abdurrahman, the Umayyads who set up in Spain, are more lauded than they may ought to be. But coming here and seeing these fine edifices of Muslim Spain, one very easily finds themselves at variance with their previous point of underration or overration, as the case may be. The beautiful architecture, and then, of course, appreciating the Andalusian music that had passed into Morocco but was not previously there. So influential, in fact, for developing the we think of as the Oriental style of music, noted for its actually lacking in the microtonality of Eastern systems of Islamic music that are very difficult, I think, for the Western ear. But the Andalusian system, its maqams are more comfortable for the Western ear in that they are not microtonal. They conform to the European 12-tone structure while still maintaining this stereotypical Oriental aesthetic. Of course, this really caught on in Hollywood, as you would not be surprised to hear of. And of course, the Andalusian science, the Andalusian medicine, the Andalusian philosophies, Maimonides, Ibn Arabi, Ibn Rushd, all these fine scholars coming out of it. The Sufi tradition, which finds its origins in Andalus, which is quite interesting because until quite recently, Spain was doing all it could to shift what was Islamic in its heritage and constrain the movements of Islamic people. But Spain is now somehow kind of embracing those sides of its history. I've seen pageantry around Catholic festivals around the Moors where they're not so much degrading the idea of the Moorish people, but rather celebrating and all these is something that is a source of great pride for Spaniards today, it seems. Meanwhile, to a certain extent, the Catholic Church has lost some of its original credibility in the eyes, I think, of many people because of its connections with Spanish fascism and reactionary politics. Although, of course, there is a Catholic left, which we must not overlook. The Christian Socialists being a prominent party in many parts of the world, particularly in Latin America. I think it's worth celebrating each part of the Spanish heritage as it comes for what it is, essentially. For the beauty and the wisdom of Andalus and of the Christian ages in Spain. While it might not be a right thing to celebrate the social institutions, which were based on colonialism, exploitation, slavery, and mass murder, as was the case with the Spanish Empire and other European empires for that matter. Not exclusively Spain, of course. What am I on about? I just say, celebrate the good stuff, but put shit with the shit, you know?